So I mentioned how I completely fucked up my sleep schedule to play to 100% the original Lego Batman. I played the second one. I have also 100%ed it. And you know what's weird? Lego Batman 2 feels like a bigger game, right? It feels like a bigger game. It's the first one where they tried out this big open world free roaming style. But it took me 10 less hours to complete 100%. And which is weird because it didn't necessarily feel like it was much shorter. And I'm like, not. It was so weird to me. It took me like the original. Let's see. Let me look at my timings. Lego Batman. Why am I? Oh my god, my voice. Lego Batman 1, 40 hours. Lego Batman 2, 32 hours. Significantly less. Like, that's like a whole, basically 10 hours shorter of a runtime. But it didn't, like, necessarily feel like that. It wasn't like, oh, this game feels thin. Like, it felt like there was a lot of content. But it just didn't, I don't know, it just went by faster. It's because I'm so good at these games. It's because these games have a very high skill cap, and now I'm really good at them because I played the first one. No, so what do I think of Lego Batman 2 compared to its predecessor? It is a messy game, but not bad. There's like a kind of inherent, I mentioned this with the first one, there's kind of an inherent solidness, a solidity to the Lego formula. Like, they would have to really fuck it up to make these games not fun on, like, just kind of a basic level. It's just kind of fun to go around. It's very simple, straightforward gameplay. Do the beat 'em up stuff with the enemies, build stuff, solve little puzzles, go through the levels. Like, very solid, kind of like, I guess I'd call it like a simple, well-rounded formula. Kind of funny because they're bricks. So with the second game's big innovation is that I'm pretty sure this is the first time they did an open world. I didn't know that going in. So it was a bit of a surprise to me. I just went in blind. It was a bit of a surprise to me when it dumped me into the open world after the first level. And when I say messy, so one of the things that I mean is that there are basically two parts to this game. The way that it's structured is a little weird. It's not weird, but it's not very well communicated at first. You have to, okay, well, so basically what it is there are still discrete, like, levels that you load into, and they are their own things. But you access those levels by going around an open world. And so you do the first level, and then it's like, hey, here you are in Gotham City. And you're like, oh, what is this? Like, what? There's a bunch of stuff. There's stuff over there, stuff over there, and then the game does not ease you into the open world aspect at all. It essentially drops you in and says, okay, you're here. Now go back to the levels, and you have a little waypoint like trail that just says, go back here, go over to this area to get to level 3 or whatever. And you're just kind of driving past all of this scenery because it's a pretty decently sized map. The open world map in this game is a really nice size. It's not too big. It doesn't feel small. It's essentially 3 big islands, and they have a bunch of stuff on them individually. It feels fairly dense, which is nice. Like, you'll never go very far and not see something like some kind of landmark or something like that. So I like the open world. I think both parts with like halves of this game are pretty good on their own. I don't think the open world is bad. It just doesn't like it. They don't feel integrated very smoothly. So you've got like the distinct levels, which are just like they've always been. You know, it's you go through, you do the same kind of gameplay. There's collectibles in there for you to replay for you to replay the levels on free play mode, and where you can like get all the stuff because you have more characters to use, that kind of thing. And then the open world aspect is this free roaming environment where you can there's a bunch of different collectibles and stuff, like a bunch of stuff to collect, which I don't mind because it's a Lego game and all that, and you kind of expect that in sort of a big open world such as this. So essentially what I figured out is the way that I really wanted to play the game was I tried to engage between levels. It was weird because there was no breathing room in between levels. Beside that, the game kind of like mandated, right? Again, like there's no easing in process. So I always felt a little bit like, oh, I should just go to the next thing. And that I should go to the next level, partly because playing... So a lot of the content in the open world is like every single rooftop, it feels like, has some kind of obstacle course on it, where like you'll start at the bottom of the building, and then there's some kind of series of challenges or obstacles that you like work your way up and around a series of buildings. And then you get to the top and you get rewarded with a gold brick, which is like the main real collectible of the game. That's your progress marker. There's like 250. And you can get 3 from the levels if you like fulfill certain requirements. And there's 15 levels. So that's like, what's 15 times 3? 45. So you can get 45 from them. The vast majority are out in the open world by doing these little obstacle courses or these little challenges. Like you break this number of objects within a certain period of time. Usually like kind of easy, not very difficult to figure out, but just the sheer volume of them is the challenge, right? And finding them and all that. You can like detect them on your map and stuff. A lot of them require other characters. Once you beat all of I found out, okay, so once you beat, there was stuff that I couldn't access because I couldn't interact with a certain mechanic. And then I found out, oh, okay, once you beat the game, once you beat all the levels, you unlock free play in the open world. So I was like, all right, you know what I'll just do? I'll just go through all of the levels, unlock free play, and then I'll focus on the open world and like cleaning that out. So that's what I did. And it led to this kind of, like not inconsistent, but like very pendulum swingy experience where the first half of my playtime was all doing these like specific levels. And then the second half was just going through the open world and completing that stuff and getting all the gold bricks and characters and stuff. Because that's how you unlock the majority of characters, is actually through the open world, which felt a little... I don't know, I actually kind of liked it. Essentially, there's a bunch of little beacons around the city for these like terminals, these like bat computer terminals. And once you activate them, they turn from red to blue, and then you can summon any vehicle, or like the appropriate vehicle for the area, like a car, boat, or like plane kind of thing, depending on where it is. But then every beacon, once you activate it, you'll get a little shot that there's a villain character in the area, and then you have to go find them, and then you play a little like miniature, a very small like little fight with them, and then they like you can arrest them. And then that's basically how you buy them. The idea is that you're like, you beat them and then you get to arrest them and you unlock them. And that's how you unlock the majority of characters in the game, is through like, because most of them are villains, is through beating them in the open world, finding and defeating them and then unlocking them that way. And that was fun. I thought that was neat. That was like a neat kind of bit of flavor for that mechanic. Or that aspect of the game. And once you unlock enough characters, you can kind of just... Because it does that thing that most Lego games do, where it's like... Most of the differences between characters are they can interact with this mechanic, and other characters can't, because they have this particular ability or trait to them. So you're just kind of like hard gated off from getting certain things until you have a character who can access that. And I'm pretty sure almost every single mechanic, there's at least like one character who can, a lot of them are like locked to like the specific like suits, the alternate suits. That was like one of the things I might have mentioned that in the first, when I was talking about the first game, but I can tell that they ran into this hurdle where they were like, okay, well, if the majority of the game you're playing as Batman and Robin, you're not really getting a lot of variety with characters. So let's add in all these alternate suits to give them different gameplay mechanics. There are alternate characters who can do most of those mechanics. Like you can fill them in, and you don't actually have to, like, you don't require the suits to go through if they're needed. What the fuck am I talking about? I'm getting like all jumbled up. So you'll like come to these buildings, and again, I said they're like obstacle courses, and at the very bottom there'll be like a suit change thing, and you might have to change between a couple different of the suits as you go throughout the course. But I realized, I was like, wait, okay, so this one suit is the only one that can break glass, and I would the top of this the gold brick. The whole obstacle course is you're working your way up to get to that suit, and then you get to the brick which is encased in glass, and then you break it with that suit. But you can unlock, there's like 2 other characters who can break glass on their own, so you can just like fly up there and just skip the entire obstacle course. That might have been why I beat this game so much faster, because I realized that you can just skip a lot of the gameplay and just like head straight to the gold bricks, and then switch to the character who can access that mechanic essentially. But I did like the open world. I liked exploring it. I liked kind of figuring out what I needed to do. It was just, again, like very simple kind of light gameplay, but getting the completion and seeing the number go up was satisfying. I have like, I don't know if it's a gripe with the levels themselves. This is, okay, the first game was like all Batman and Robin. This game opens as a Batman and Robin game, and then it turns into a Batman and Superman game, like a third of the way in. And Robin just disappears. And it's weird, because Robin has all of these alternate suits, and it feels like there would be a lot of gameplay stuff done with them. But no, the majority of the game, you are Batman and Superman. And is there a problem with that? I don't know. It felt like, when I said, like, again, messy. Like, it feels like it's splitting its attention a little much in terms of the gameplay. Because it's like, okay, you introduce all these different Robin suits, and then he doesn't show up for like most of the game. He just there's not even an explanation for where he goes. He's just gone. And you're just Batman and Superman. And there's like a mild problem with that, because Superman is like ridiculously overpowered in this game. He has so many, he can fly. He has the super strength, which lets him interact with super strength objects. He has heat vision, which lets him destroy certain objects. He has the freezing breath, which lets him like do stuff like freeze water, which you can use as like a platform and stuff like that. Is there anything? I think that's mainly it. It's essentially like all of the suits that Batman or Robin would get, just like combined into one character, and he just gets all of this stuff. Also, he's like completely invulnerable. He's actually just can't take damage. The game treats him like a vehicle. He has like the silver invulnerability hearts, and when he walks into enemies, he like runs them over and they get flattened. The game treats him like a vehicle, basically. So for most of the game, I was always on Superman unless I had to switch to Batman because there was a Batman specific thing that I had to do. And then I would switch back to Superman. Oh, also he has X-ray vision, so he can interact with like certain puzzles where you need to like look through things. He just has so much shit. He has so much shit. He's such an overstuffed character, which, like, yeah, that's what I would want Superman to be. But gameplay-wise, it feels very lopsided. It really feels like Batman gets outshone in his own game. Which is kind of like the problem of like a Batman Superman team up, or that's like the challenge, right? Is like, well, how do we make it so that Superman just doesn't win everything immediately because he can solve all the problems? What challenges do we throw at them, and what distinctions do we make between these two characters so that there's actually, we can focus equally on them? Yeah, so you're doing that for most of the game. And it's like, you know, the gameplay is still good, but it doesn't, it's weird to say that it doesn't feel challenging because I'm just invulnerable Superman for most of it, but because, you know, these games are not very difficult in the first place, but yeah, you just kind of feel like you waltz through it. He's the little brother character. He's the character that you give to your little brother who doesn't know how to play video games, so that he can have fun and feel like he's doing stuff. And then you are like the Bat Mule, slugging it out with the regular human beings. Oh, and then randomly at the end of the game, in like the penultimate like 2 or 3 levels, they're like, we gotta call the Justice League together, and like they just add a bunch of characters into the mix, with like a couple unique mechanics. Like the Flash is the only one who can build very specific Lego objects. How many times did this show up in the game? Like a couple. Oh yeah, Robin's back. Guys, remember he's back. Hey, remember how he had that ice suit with like the freeze ray? Here's a switch. Like literally in the penultimate level, it says like the ice suit can activate ice switches. They're these just little things that you shoot with the ice ray, and it's like a switch that can only be activated by that. And I was like, this thing's going to show up like twice tops. And yeah, that's exactly it. It shows up one more time later in that same level, never in the last level, and then once or twice in the open world. It's like, what was the point of that? Like, again, like messy, like weird, mechanically wasn't, I don't know. It feels like it's doing a little too much. It feels a little unfocused. Unfocused is how I would describe it. Not bad, just lacking a very sharp focus on a certain set of mechanics. A lot of variety, but not particularly meaningful, because most of that variety is, again, in that very Lego way of like, well, this is different because this character is the only one who can interact with this thing. And it's like, it functionally feels very arbitrary. So, not bad at all. Like, again, I had fun, you know, it was fun to 100% it. Oh, you know what wasn't fun about 100%ing it? The fucking, okay. I got a rant about this. So, I mentioned in the first one that the vehicle levels in the first game were the worst levels. The vehicle levels in this game have been essentially reworked. They're basically all on-rails shooters, which I think is fine. I don't mind that. It's whatever, you know. Until you get to the open world stuff. And there's a number of challenges in the open world to get, like, gold bricks, where you have to use a vehicle. And they're all basically the same thing. It'll be, like, excuse me, you know, you'll go to one of the boats, and in order to get the gold brick, you have to complete this thing where you're driving, you drive a boat, where you're basically just driving through a series of gates. There's like a time limit, and it gets reset each time you drive through the next gate, and you just got to get to the end, and then you're rewarded with the gold brick, right? Okay, fine, fun. The flying vehicle challenges. Now, I know this is a superhero game, but I have to question the decision to take their inspiration from Superman 64, because it is flying through rings. It's the exact same premise of like going through a series of gates, except it's like hoops in the air, basically. Now here's the problem with that is the flying controls suck ass for the vehicles. They suck if you need any level of precision. Like, for instance, if you're trying to hit a certain target or something, fly through a certain target. So here's the way that it works. So all of the vehicles, and it works differently. So there's flying characters, right? The flying characters aren't quite as bad. Essentially, with them, if you double jump, you'll initiate flying. And then you go into flying mode, and you've got this little cursor, and you move the cursor around, and once you drag it to the edges of the screen, that'll make them either like turn left or right, or go up and down, which is weird. In order to ascend or descend, you have to like drag it all the way to the top, which is, and then you'll like the camera will like flip downwards, and it's a little disorienting, and you can't really see what you want to see. Like there were so many moments where I just wanted to fly up and observe, but I couldn't do that because as I'm ascending, I am just pointed straight at the sky. But it's like, okay. And then you use the jump button will make you fly forward, and then the special button will make you drop. It'll make you descend. So you don't have to like drag the cursor all the way to the bottom. The flying vehicles use the same controls that all the vehicles do, which is that the jump button moves forward and the special button moves back. The attack button shoots. The switch button just makes you jump out of it, I think. Yeah, you just jump out of the vehicle. So for like the boats or the cars, that's fine because it's just on two axes, right? Just X and Y. When you add in that Z axis, that third dimension, and now there's like ascending and descending, those vehicle controls do not hold up. They need like an extra button or something. The only way to go up or down is to drag the cursor all the way to the top or bottom of the screen now. And when you do that, the vehicle will awkwardly drop in these very stuttery, weird movements. And you'll also probably be moving forward at the same time. And let me tell you, this thing is ass for any kind of precise movement. It sucks. And there were so many times where I had to redo one of these stupid ring challenges 2 or 3 times because, oh fuck, I overshot it. Now I gotta like back up, and then I gotta rate, and then the timer's out. It's so awkward and unwieldy feeling. It's still the worst part of the game. Thankfully, there's only a handful of them if you want to 100% the game. But man, they have not figured out flying controls. I wonder if it gets any better in the future, but not in this game. There's half as many levels in the second game as there are the first. The first has 30 levels. This one has 15. But the levels feel twice as long. Like which is, I think, is like fair. I didn't mind so most of the levels in the first game are like 3 rooms and a boss. And I didn't mind that too much because those levels felt to me like I kind of got the feeling of, oh, it's like, this is a very me thing. I know it's like it was more so a limitation on their part, but to me it felt kind of like playing inside of a Lego set, which I thought was neat. This tiny or this smaller area, because those rooms, there's only 3 rooms, but those rooms feel very dense. There's like a couple combat encounters and a few puzzles and some extras on the side that you kind of like, oh, I should come back here. And that stuff made those feel, dense. Like there was a lot to do in them. So it's only 3 rooms, but you're spending like maybe 5 minutes each, 5+ minutes in each of them, doing all the stuff, breaking everything, trying to find as many secrets as you can. And that was fun. These are like twice as long, and the content feels a little more spread out, but pretty good. Same, pretty solid, fine level design that these games tend to have. It usually didn't feel like they dragged on too long. I'm trying to think if there was any levels that I felt really just went on for too long. Not really. I've had more bugs. I've had more experiences with bugs in the second one than I did the first. Mostly minor stuff. Like some weird, like switching to a character and the camera is like stuck in the floor like 100 feet down. So I'm just looking up at my character and all of the all the geometry is looking weird because I'm like inside of it. I had one one freeze on me in the middle of a level, which was fun, that I was trying to 100%. And there's like one specific spot in one of the levels. It's the level where you fight Scarecrow at the end. And in the room leading up to him, there's a little area down below. And if you go down there to grab something, because there's like a collectible down there, the AI companion will follow you, but it won't climb up the ladder. It'll just continuously throw itself off of a cliff. It'll just repeatedly kill itself. And like there's no way to stop it. You just have to like do this weird thing where you like switch to them and then try to like jump on the ladder and then switch to the other character, like switch back, because like then the CPU is going to take over for them and jump down and it can't figure out the ladder. So you have to play this weird like hot potato so that around like the AI. Very specific gripe, but like, yeah, I don't know. That feels like a C class bug kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Or a D class or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I had a good time. I did like the open world. I liked the fact that it had, visually, it's always like sunset or like sunrise. I think it's like supposed to be like sunrise, or dusk or something like that, but in the rain. And there's this very pretty looking open world where it's always raining, but there's like the sunlight is like this golden orange, but only on like one side of the sky. It's a nice looking open world. And it was fun to explore. It was genuinely like fun to go around and scan an area and then tick off all the boxes. So yeah, like a solid like first effort for an open world attempt, but kind of messy and a little bit unfocused, you know. Nonetheless, it still has the kind of solid core foundation of the gameplay. So that kind of holds it up. That's my thoughts on Lego Batman 2. Can you believe I had such deep thoughts on a game like that? I can.